Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I thought I'd answer a viewer question. And the question was about, the general theme of is it too late to put a garden in? It's now like it's the end of June right now as I'm answering this question. So I'll read the question here. Hello, Greg. I realize that I'm a few days later watching this video, but I have a few questions. I was wondering if you could help me. I live in Eastern Ontario, near the capital. That's Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And I had an unexpected situation with all my vegetable starts. Without getting into details, my question is, if I were to set seeds directly into the ground, would they produce any fruits? Specifically wondering about tomatoes, both paste and slicer, bell, banana peppers, cucumbers, summer squash, onions, winter squashes, carrots, parsnips. That's just a handful of starts that I lost. So is it too late is my serious problem. All right, so, well, I guess let's get started first with definitions. So you said fruits, but I think you mean basically, can I get a yield? Because carrots don't have a yield, all right? So what you need to ask yourself, I know where you live, you get a pretty hot, people think of Ottawa as a cold northern place, but it gets a pretty intense summer. So what you need to ask yourself is the days of maturity for the plants you want to plant. So for some of these things like bell peppers, banana peppers, tomatoes, you're going to have to buy some transplants to get those started because they just need too much heat for too long, and they take too long to get started and all that sort of stuff, right? So for those, for whatever you want to grow, you look at it, just Google it. You can just type days to maturity and different varieties of plants. You can get tables and charts and all kinds of stuff like that for these different things. For the peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, things like that, they take too long and they need too much heat. So you can get a yield, but you need to buy transplants and put those in the ground. For some of these other things, yeah, you can still sow directly, but you have to choose a variety that's fast growing, that has a short amount of time, days to maturity, right? So, I mean, there's varieties of pumpkin that are mature in like 70 days, and there's varieties of pumpkin that take 130 days, right? So you have to look that up. Right? And there's all kinds of different varieties, and me suggesting a variety to you, you might not be able to find it where you are. You're not going to order these things online. You're probably going to go to a garden center and buy the pack and stick it in the ground. So that sort of thing. Also, with days to maturity, it's all days are not created equally. That's important to understand. So if something says it has, I mean, think about it right now. It's the end of June, so we've got, basically July, August, and let's say September. So 30, 30, 30, right? You got 90 days, right? And I mean, where I live, we can get frost in September. I don't know about Ottawa if that happens sometimes. I lived in Ontario for 6 years. And I was in Hamilton, which is further south than Ottawa. But my wife went to university at Carleton in Ottawa. So I think September is pretty nice in Ottawa, although you get a pretty darn cold winter. Anyway, suffice it to say, you run on the assumption that you've got 90 days, and anything you can plant that's shorter than that, you choose that variety. Like for carrots, there's varieties of carrots that take 120 days, but there's also varieties that are, basically grow to length because they're like shorter and stubbier and just faster growing by nature that can be ready in 60, 70 days, right? So you want to choose varieties of the different things you want to grow that have those short days to maturity. I think you had parsnips on your list. I think it's too late for parsnips for this year. I don't know of a variety of parsnip that has like, that quick of a growing. I mean, you could try it and see, right? It depends on what kind of fall you're going to. They'll continue to grow in fall, right? Depends on what kind of fall you're going to get, right? If you start getting frost and stuff like that, parsnips can still grow with that as well. But I mean, I plant my parsnips like the first week of April, right? So, and they grow. I don't harvest them until December. But all that being said, to get back to a point I started earlier, all days are not equal, right? If you Google it, there's a term called growing degree days. So I can have a day with 12 hours of sunlight, from dawn to dusk in Nova Scotia, here where I live, and you can have a day with 12 hours in Ottawa. But your day will actually get more sunlight. You got to remember that plants, for all intents and purposes, eat sun. Right? Think of the plant leaves as solar cells, right? So an overcast day doesn't give the plant as much as a sunny day. A rainy day doesn't give the plant as much sun as a sunny day. right? And a sunny day with clouds is not as good as a sunny day with no clouds, right? So when it says days to maturity, that's speaking to a kind of average day, right? So if your days are exceptionally sunny and nice, which I think they are in Ottawa in the summer, you know, you're getting more day out of your day, put it that way, right? So you know, you can push that envelope a little bit where you are, because you get pretty nice hot sunny days in Ottawa. Now that being said, you have to think, or you're near Ottawa. You said near the nation's capital. You know, I don't know where you live. Anyway, all of that being said, that creates a problem on the other end, right? Because it's the end of June now, and it's crazy hot right now. I remember a couple of years ago, my family and I went to Cuba for Canada Day, right, July 1st, and we had to fly to Toronto and then fly to Cuba, and it was hotter in Toronto than in Cuba, right? So I know it's pretty hot in Ottawa as well in the summer, pretty intense summer. So you've got a challenge for germination. I mean, the reason we plant a lot of plants in spring is because it's a little cooler and it's kind of rainy, and it's sort of ideal for getting seeds to germinate. What do you know, right? And everything seems to grow around that point in time. So if you're sowing seeds directly into the soil in July or the end of June, you have to take steps to make sure that the soil around the seed remains moist all the time, right? You can't have it drying out, which means you have to water it often. A good trick is when you put the seeds in the ground, maybe plant them, you know, if it has a range of planting depths, plant them as deep as they can go. Another good trick is when you plant the seeds, put some paper or cardboard, you know, water the soil, put some paper or cardboard right over the soil to shield it from, it's still hot, right? It's hot enough for germination. So put paper right over the soil and leave it like that for like 3 or 4, not too long, but like 3 or 4 days, right? So that soil will stay good and moist for 3 or 4 days, and you don't have to keep watering it. You know, if you water it in the morning and it's 30 Celsius or 35 Celsius or 39 Celsius, it's going to keep drying out. You got to be watering it all day long to keep the soil moist, right? So a better trick is you just put something, you know, something like paper or cardboard that's going to keep the sun off the soil, keep that soil moist, so the seed can get germinated. Of course, once, you know, you can't leave the paper there indefinitely. You have to take it off, because once the leaves start emerging out of the ground, they're searching for sunlight. They need sunlight, right? So you have to let them expose them to the sun. Okay, that's a challenge at that stage because the roots aren't very deep, right? So you have to give those plants the amount of water they need, but not too much. You can do a little trick where you put like some sort of something to block the sun a little bit, like maybe put a little wall so it only gets morning sun, you know, when the plants are really young, right? Just because there's so much sun and it's so intense this time of year. Some plants are going to be less bothered by that than others, but it's something you have to be aware of. If you're sowing directly in late June, early July, you know, some plants have really shallow roots when they're just emerging from the seed, and they need special care so that they don't dry out and die in a day if you've got an intensely hot day. I mean, you just take a look at the forecast, and I mean, today I've got an overcast conditions right now. I think it's supposed to be 25 later on. It's going to be nice and rainy tomorrow, and overcast, right? So you got to bear all these things in mind. But there's little tricks you can use to keep the sun and the heat off the soil for when you have those little tiny seedlings. I mean, they still need sun, but the roots are so shallow. You're either watering them all the time or you're not watering them enough. I mean, it's what I'm trying to say is you're going to have to nurse that garden along a little bit. It's not going to just grow, you know, like it sometimes in April, May, you just stick the seeds and almost drop the seeds and they grow. You got to do a little bit more work, but you can still do it. You can still totally have a garden if you choose to, you know, do it now. But all these things like, you know, peppers, squash, eggplant, stuff like that, you're going to need transplants for that. For squashes, you can just put the seed right in the ground right now. That's fine. Onions, it's a bit too late. They take a long time. Winter squashes, fine. You can plant those now. Carrots, you can, if you get a fast-growing, you know, all this, you know, bearing in mind that days to maturity thing. A fast-growing carrot, fine. Parsnips, probably too late, right? So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that question. You can still have a garden right now. You just have to, you got some things working for you. You got lots of heat and lots of sun. On the other hand, when those seedlings are really young and vulnerable, you got to make sure that they don't run out of water during the midday of a really hot day. There's, you know, you put some sort of shade so they don't get, you're going to remove that shade once the plant gets about, I don't know, 2-3 inches high, right? You're going to remove some of that shade. And when I say shade, I just mean like partial sun. The plants still need sun, right? So if you've got a seedling and you've got, let's say this way is east and that way is west, right? You just put some sort of wall next to the seed so it gets the morning sun, but then it gets a bit of shade in the afternoon, right? Just till they're maybe this high, 5-6 inches. Then remove that thing and let them get all the sun, because by then the roots have gone down. Hopefully they got a good root structure and they can handle the full summer sun. But anyway, yeah, long-winded way of saying yes, you can still have a garden. Just bear in mind that you've got some pretty intense temperatures right now, so when the seedlings are small, you have to give them special care to get them through that. So I hope that answered your question. I see I'm almost out of battery here, so I better wrap her up. Hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.